What's up, and welcome to Unspoken Conversations. I'm James Crow, and here we talk about issues and situations that are in plain sight. Things that people hate to talk about, but it needs to be said, from relationships, families, friends, and life. Our goal is to shed light and understanding so that just maybe we can start to rebuild relationships, families, and ultimately, our communities. What's up, and welcome back, guys. This one here is going to be a video I want to call What Accountability Looks Like. Accountability is crazy, and a lot of people don't know how to take accountability for their own shit. And this one is it's a little bit serious and it's a little dear to the heart because as you grow, you kind of encounter some shit, and when you go through a little bit, you learn a little bit. So here's what accountability looks like from me. So after I had my kids, my couple of boys with my ex-wife, right? We went through our ups and downs. Eventually, we ended up parting ways. I ended up leaving. I kind of fucked off a little bit, and then I left. I was just at the point where I was sick of the relationship. She was a little bit naggy. I felt like she shouldn't have been naggy, so there was a little bit on her part, a little bit on my part. It just went crazy, right? And I just got to the point to where I was ready to go. So I left. In the beginning, I didn't take accountability for that. In the beginning, she didn't take accountability for what she made me feel like. She didn't know what I felt, and I didn't know what she felt. So as time passed, we ended up arguing, beefing, always fighting. I ain't gonna say I hated her because I didn't hate her and I still would have protected her, but at the time, we wasn't getting along. So I ended up with somebody else. She didn't end up with somebody else for quite a while. When she finally started seeing somebody, it was a couple of different guys here and there because she didn't keep them around. She just talked to them for a little bit. She'd see her red flags and she'd cut them off. They were no good. So she wasn't really dealing with nobody. She was just like finally just starting to talk to somebody, seeing that they weren't right, and she'd cut them off. Me, I had a whole relationship. So when my relationship ended up going bad with this other chick, that went crazy because she didn't have kids. Now, in one of my previous videos, I talked about I will never, ever date a chick that don't have kids. Well, that was my learning experience. So now that I know, I'll never do that shit again. But that's neither here nor there. Back to accountability. So as time passes, me and that girl is not together anymore. And I dealt with quite a few girls here and there just because now at this point, I'm trying to decide what I want, what I don't want, from who, and what I'll go through to have what I want, right? Trying to learn what I want. Just trying to learn some things about myself, right? Because I had been with my ex for years since high school. So I decided I don't want no relationship. I'm just going to deal with a few women, and I'd tell each one that I was dealing with other women. If they decided they wanted to stay, cool. If not, cool. I didn't want no relationship. So it is what it is. It was what it was. But there came a time where I started thinking deep, like, this is not me. This ain't what I want. I don't really want to live like this. I don't want to have all these people calling me and all that. So I had to make a decision. As my dad would say, shit or get off the pot, right? So I wanted to have a relationship. The problem was I hadn't completely fixed my shit. I hadn't completely fixed my shit, right? And I wasn't blaming her. I wasn't blaming her, but when I would talk to people and talk about my situation, I noticed what I was doing is I was telling what she did to make me leave. I was telling her part of the story, and that's where I was getting shit fucked up. What I learned to do is I don't tell her part of the story. I tell my part of the story. Now what I'm doing is I'm owning up to what the fuck I did. And it took me a while. It took me a while to see what I was doing. But when I finally saw what I was doing, I stopped blaming her for her part. Now, here's what happened when I stopped blaming her. The more we would communicate and talk about the kids, about whatever, I would talk to her a little bit softer, not aggressive, no hatred, no hostility, no nothing. In which she would act like she wanted to get an attitude. I said, look, I got to get off the phone. I got to get off the phone. I can't talk to you like that, so I got to get off the phone. What that did is it let her see that I'm not trying to attack her and I don't want to be attacked, right? So then when she'd ask me questions about what happened and this, and this, instead of me saying, well, you, I turned it into me. And as time went by, I would start to talk to her a little bit more and more. And what I would say is, you know, it was my fault. Like, I did what I did. Like, I got sick of the relationship and I fucked off. You didn't make me. I did that. I take 100% accountability for what I did. You didn't make me do nothing. I did it. I was irritated and I was upset with the relationship, so I was ready to be done with the relationship, so I did what I did, and the very next day I grabbed my stuff and I moved out. So that's all me. When she saw that I was taking full accountability, she stopped pointing the finger. She stopped pointing the finger at me. And as soon as she stopped pointing the finger at me, I noticed her turn up was getting lower and lower. She wasn't turning up at me no more, because she realized I was taking full accountability for my actions, which made her have to sit back and think, made her have to take full accountability for her actions. So then I started noticing over weeks and over months and over the next 2-3 years. And I just, you know, I dealt with these few girls, and it's been a few years after the last girl, and now I'm talking to someone else now. And at this point, when me and her would talk, we had no hostility towards each other. There was a couple of times we did, but it was about a specific guy that she was dealing with, and the dude was mad disrespectful. And I ain't with disrespect. You gonna keep that shit away from my kids' home. Don't bring that around my kids' home. And my kids were staying with her. So, excuse me, if she's dealing with him, he's around the kids. Any disrespect he brings into the home, the boys pick up on this disrespect. And I ain't with that. I left behind a whole life of bullshit, bad shit, some illegal shit for the sake of my kids when they came. I'd be damned if I let her get with somebody who's gonna bring that shit right back into the house that I built for these fucking kids. I'm not gonna have that. So if me and him's gonna have an issue, me and him's gonna have an issue. But the issue wasn't with her. The issue was with the dude, because he was just disrespectful as hell, even by disrespecting her. He never did nothing to the kids, but he was just always cussing, calling her names and stuff. So when me and him had an issue, and I went to her, and I didn't go to her. Me and my sons had boys' night on Friday nights. Every Friday night we'd have boys' nights, and I'm sitting in the car, I'm talking to my sons, and they're little. I think they were like 5 and 7-ish, some shit like that. I can't even remember. I want to say 5 and 7. Could have been a couple years older, but I'm just gonna say in there for point of the story. And my son says, he's all right. He's funny. He makes mom laugh, but he always smells like weed. I'm like, weed? What you mean weed? How you know what weed smells like? And one of my sons says, I heard him talking about it. What? He come in a house like that? And he said, yeah, he comes in a house like that. Now, this is my oldest son. My youngest son didn't know. He didn't know. And I'm saying 5 and 7, but they could have been more like 8 and 10. I just don't remember. I ain't even trying to think about that right now. So I'm like, you know what? Now I'm a little irritated, because I told her the one thing I want to do is I want to keep my kids away from that lifestyle. I would like for them to see it, but not in the house. I would like them to see it from the outside. You know what I'm saying? From the outside world. I got cousins like that. She got cousins like that. See them. Don't see it in the house. But that's neither here nor there either. So they were gone. Him and her was gone. I had already shook his hand when they left. I had already talked to them when they left. I was cool with him, even though he was disrespectful. I just kept my distance from him because I'm very no nonsense. So when they came back, now I'm a little irritated, and I'm walking the house with the kids and take the kids in the house. And they go upstairs, and he's standing in the kitchen. I'm like, "What's up, man? Let me holler at you for a minute. Come sit down real quick. Let me just have a little talk with you." Dude try to turn up. Now, for the sake of telling people's business and her putting her shit all in, let's just cut to the story, right? So something pops off, and I have to I'm leave, but I'm gonna be right the fuck back. And when I came back, everything's cleared out. But from then to, I don't know, a few months later, I ain't talking to her. I don't want to talk to her. We can't have no talk. This stemmed from you because you knew I don't deal with disrespect around the kids. And this is their castle. This is their home. I built this for them. I left it to you because they were staying with you. And this is what you let happen. So I was upset with her. They ain't calling no names. Didn't put my hands on her. None of that. Dude was putting his hands on her. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say putting his hands on her. I'm just gonna leave. He was just being disrespectful. Anyway, as that little bit of time went by, I wasn't talking to her. She was going through her little mess with him, and she needed somebody to talk to. And as she needs somebody to talk to, would you please talk to me? Just talk to me. I don't know what to do with this situation. I don't know what to do with that situation. Now, me, at the time, I ain't give a fuck. I ain't care. That's your mess. You created that. You got to deal with that. But I just wasn't going to let him just really tear up these kids' house, this kid's home. I wasn't going to let that happen. But she deal with him. I was going to let her deal with that. But the time came where he actually did put his hands on her, and then I had to go change some shit. But at that point, that's when him and her had to go separate ways. That was on her choice. I was on some different shit, but it was her choice to part ways with him, and she made him stay gone. It was then that I was able to have conversations with her because she learned from him what she was doing to me to make me want to leave. She learned the same thing she was doing to me, he was doing to her. When she learned what that looked like, she was able to stop and think. And then she came to me and she apologized for everything she ever did. As far as yapping, nagging, and fussing and complaining, and she apologized for everything she ever did. She didn't know that I felt the way she felt when he was doing it to her. She didn't know that's what it felt like. So as she's saying it to me, as she's talking to me and she's crying, she was on the phone with me. She wasn't in front of me. And I'm like, I understand. I get it. That's done and over with though. I ain't mad at you. I'm glad you made the right decision in getting this dude out your life, because he was gonna make something real bad happen. And I don't need my sons to grow up without a dad. So I'm glad you handled the situation, you know. But from there, she was able to say, I can't believe I put you through that. You hear that? That is the sound of accountability. She says, I can't believe that I put you through that. Right? Now, I had already been saying my part. And then she says to me, the fact that you can say that you're sorry and you didn't mean to hurt me. You just didn't want to deal with this, and this. And you took accountability for what you did. The fact she said that to me about what I said to her. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to. It happened. But it's what it is. And I take full accountability. Now, when she's having this conversation with me, she can tell me the exact same thing, but from her words, from him. And that's accountability. So listening to her say that, it really made me think. I learned my lesson. I did. She learned her lesson. She surely did. So now when I talk to her, I don't talk to her from a hostile standpoint because of what she put me through. And I wasn't mad at her about dude. That shit was done. So ain't no point to be mad at her about dude. You know what I mean? That was his dumbass. So as far as me and her communicating after that, everything was cool. And the relationship between me and her got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Because the reason we was beefing is because she was still hostile from what I did to her, and I left. And not only did I leave, I waited for her to go to work and grab my shit and left. When she came home, my shit was gone. I ain't even tell her. So when I say shit, I ain't take nothing, man. I just took my clothes. I ain't took nothing else. I ain't take nothing from them kids. I only took my clothes. And I gave her no explanation. And I took accountability. I told her that was, as the time went by, I told her it was fucked up. What I did was fucked up. It is. I ain't saying I wasn't. Bogus as hell. But when a person gets to where they sick of it and they done, they kick rocks. They move around. And that's what happened. All right. I take full responsibility. That's what it was. That's what it was. And she said, I can't even blame you. I can't even blame you because I did this and I made you feel like this. And the fact that I said this to you all the time and I was doing this and I was always turning up and always being mad. I mean, and she said, when she said to me that she was always like this and she was always doing this, in my mind, I'm like, damn, she gets it. She gets it. She understands. And now that she understands, I guess I can let it go. I guess she's like, I guess she can let it go. And then like that, we were able to rebuild a friendship from a point where I'm not blaming her. She's not blaming me. When I'm dating somebody, she ain't got no beef with that person. When she's dating somebody, I ain't got no beef with that person. It is what it is, because like I've said in previous videos, we understood that we're family. We was just at each other's neck behind stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Not to where if she would have called me, even when we was beefing, I paid the mortgage the entire time. And never, and I wasn't even living there, but never if would I have turned her down if she would have said, I can't make my car payment. That car payment would have got paid because my kids have to ride in that car. And she wasn't calling me just trying to milk me out of money. She wasn't that type of chick. If she was, I would have cut her off. I would have been giving her money. If anything, I would have waited till it was 3 or 4 car payments behind and I would have helped her with that. But that's not what it was. She always handled her finances. So that was never an issue between us. She was never trying to rob me and snake me out of money. That was never an issue with us. The issue was the other little bullshit in her mouth. And then me always working and not listening. You get what I'm saying? So we both had our own issues. And because she would bitch because I was never there, I would start staying away. And the worst thing a man can do, is start taking a long way home. When a man takes a long way home from work, ooh, bruh, some shit done started. A long way home ends up being another chick's bed. And I realized that then, but at the time, I ain't care. I was sick of my situation because I was sick of fighting. I watched my mom and dad fight the entire time they was together. And they weren't hitting each other fighting, but they were always fighting. But when you grow up seeing that, you start to think that it's normal. And I'm not the type to think that what everybody else is doing is cool. That's not. So me, I want to be different. I don't want to be like that. If I got to bring my kids up around that, we're not going to be together. It's just not going to happen. It took me long enough to figure it out, but I was a boy when we met. I was a man when we split. I ain't even going to say I was fully a man. I was turning into a man when we split. And then a few years after we split, that's when the real man started to come into play. I started turning into a real man. I started noticing shit that I didn't notice in my younger years. And my thoughts changed. And as my thoughts changed, hers changed. And as we grew older, my level of accountability was so great. Now, anytime I fuck up, that's me. That's me. No matter what it is. If I fuck up, that's me. I take full accountability for it. And she did the same thing. And it's harder for women to apologize, and it's harder for women to say, that's me. But she got it after me, years after me, but she's getting it a little bit more and a little bit more. But back to what accountability looks like. What it looks like is when one person shows that's exactly what they did, that exactly what they did was the reason for things falling apart. And the other person listens to that and they say, well, exactly what I did was my fault. So now I'm owning up to my shit. She's owning up to her shit. But if I wouldn't have done it, she probably wouldn't have changed her shit. She probably would have still been pointing at me. You get what I'm saying? Somebody has to take accountability first. It doesn't matter who, but somebody has to take accountability first. If you're in a situation where you or your partner has not taken accountability, sit back long enough and just say, let me try this. And just try to back up and say, baby, I'm sorry. Whatever it was that made us get like this, I'm sorry for my part in it. Whatever it was, I'm sorry for my part in it. And the next time you have a situation, do the same thing. Baby, I'm sorry for my part in it. We should have never got to this. We should have never got to this point. So whatever I did to get us to this part, to this point in my part, I'm done. Let's see what we can do to fix it. And watch how your partner changes. You might have to do it a few times because that first time they ain't gonna be like, whatever. It's because they're still in fight mode. And sometimes it takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it takes years to come out of fight mode. But it takes somebody to step up and hold themselves accountable for the shit that they did. Stop pointing the finger at somebody else. And when you can, I promise you, when you can do that, when you can stop pointing at somebody else and take accountability for your own shit, it will force the other person to have no choice but to take accountability, because nobody wants to be the asshole that says you, when that person is saying me. So now I'm pointing at myself and you pointing at me too. Who's the asshole here? Nobody wants to be that jackass. So you really got to sit and think. When you think about it, if you point at yourself, just do it a few times. If you point at yourself, watch where the finger of your partner turns to. They're going to stop pointing at you. If they don't, they selfish as hell. And some people are selfish, and some people will stay selfish their entire life and die selfish. We're not talking about them. We talking about some of y'all whose partner will own up, and then they'll turn down instead of turning up. All you got to do is try it, see what happens. Most likely, things will change for you and your partner. But one of y'all got to step up. One of y'all got to step up. Most likely, it's going to be the one that ain't that selfish. The one that ain't as selfish as the other one. If that's what it is, it's what it is. But you got to take accountability, and you got to step up and let your partner know that you taking full accountability for your part. When that happens, your life will change. Yep. Until next time, have a good night.
They are so full of the cap, man. I can't take it, need to break it. If they ain't got it, you know they gon' fake it, cuz